In days gone by, Kent villages and towns would often have their own bands. And in the tiny village of Frittenden, the local pub, the Bell and Jorrocks, combines the names of the two local hostelries, the Bell having closed some years ago. The existing pub was originally called the John Jorrocks, named after the famous huntsman of that name, celebrated in the book by Surtees called Jorrocks, Jaunts and Jollities. It's still the focal point of Frittenden village life and is now the home of one of Kent's leading Morris teams, the Mr. Jorrocks. The Boxing Day hunt is still an important feature of Kent rural life in some areas, and the local hunt sometimes meet at the Bell and Jorrocks. But another link between this pub and Christmas festivities occurs through an old photograph of a band on the wall of the saloon bar. This is of the celebrated Frittenden Band. It was taken in the year 1860 when the band made a trip to London, which is still the subject of local anecdotes. The band would play at important times of the year, including Christmas, and there were Kent versions of well-known carols set to local tunes. For example, traditional singer Les Waghorn remembers singing While Shepherds Watched in Headcorn Chapel to a tune composed in Kent called Cranbrook and borrowed for the song On Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. Some years ago, the Frittenden Band were touring round the neighbourhood at Christmas time, playing carols to the outlying farms and houses. And that particular Christmas Eve was very foggy, as it often is the case in the low-lying areas of the Weald. The band consisted of mainly brass instruments, unlike the string-dominated choirs of Wessex described by Thomas Hardy. The lineup of the team musicians was bass drum, flugelhorn, 2 cornets, French horn, trombone, euphonium, tuba, and side drum. And although hardly being able to read the music in front of them, the musicians were not put off by the fog and set off in high spirits, having fortified themselves with good Kentish ale at the Bell and Jorrocks. They moved round from house to house and from farm to farm, playing their Christmas repertoire and receiving mince pies and hot cider punch. The fog grew thicker and thicker, and the musicians began to long for the roaring open fire of the Bell and Jorrocks. Around midnight, they cautiously felt their way across the fields to their last port of call, an outlying farmhouse renowned for its hospitality and for that reason selected as the final visit. The shadowy outline of the old buildings seemed to loom through the mist as they played their carols. There they were, in full swing, halfway through Hark the Herald Angels Sing, when all of a sudden, as if by magic, the fog lifted, and to their surprise, they found themselves playing to a haystack.
Udimore handbell ringers. That's us. Well, it's the bells, really. It's not us. We don't come from anywhere near Udimore. Udimore is a little tiny village, just about 3 miles this side of Rye. And the bells were in the ownership of the Stevens family since 1880. And it's very unusual, in fact, for bells to be in the ownership of the family. They're usually connected with the church or a team of tower ringers. We started practicing with Mr. Ernie Stevens, who was the chap who owned these, down in Udimore. For about 4 or 5 years we played in his team. But then we bought them from him, and they were in a desperate state because they'd been kept in a big sack in the loft, which doesn't do bells any good at all. And Walter Dobby, one of your local geniuses, actually took them and got them into tune and did this magnificent job on them. Unfortunately, due to our use of them, they're in need of some more work, but we haven't told them about that yet. Right, The Man in the Moon came down too soon, although you'll know it is a different name altogether.
It's rather magical in the folk world, the tradition of handing on we talk a lot about, and that's how many of our tunes and songs and stories have survived over the centuries. But we're particularly blessed tonight by having two families with this actually happened in this generation, the family Smith and the family Cullen, where they really hand down, and so let's hope it'll go on.
We're going to sing a version of a French carol. Guillaume, prends ton tambourin, toi prends ta flûte, Robin, au son de ces instruments, tourlouloulou, patapatapan, au son de ces instruments, je dirai Noël gaiement. Will ye take your little drum with your whistle, Robin, come, when we hear the fife and drum, tooraloo, patapatapan,
midwinter rituals of dressing up as horses and horned animals are widespread in Britain and are undoubtedly of pagan origin. In Kent, in the 7th century, Archbishop Theodorus decreed penance for 3 years for those who transform themselves into the semblance of wild animals at the calends of January, because this is devilish. Well, despite this, the custom of hoodening, in which a man disguised himself as a horse by crouching under a sacking cover holding a pole with a carved wooden horse's head attached to it, survived in the Isle of Thanet, Deal and Warmer into the early 20th century. The horse was traditionally accompanied by a wagoner, a jockey, a molly, a man disguised as a woman with blackened face with a besom broom, and some musicians, though as the custom declined, the number of participants shrank also. In Thanet, the Hoodeners visited farms over the Christmas period, and in Walmer and Deal they visited shops, which were open until 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and into pubs and hotel bars. Naomi Whiffin of Edenbridge remembered seeing the Hooden horse at Deal as a girl, and she wrote, "I remember as a child being taken out on Christmas Eve to the High Street in Deal, where the shops would be open very late, and it was the only time Deal children were allowed out in the evening, as parents were very strict. As we would be looking at the lighted shops and listening to the people selling their wares, a horrible growl and a long horse's face would appear, resting on our shoulder. And when one looked round, there would be a long row of teeth snapping at us with wooden jaws. It was frightening for a child. Usually there would be a man leading the horse with a rope, and another man covered over with sacks or a blanket as the horse." Well, in recent years, Hooden horses have been revived at Whitstable and at St Nicholas at Wade. And a first West Kent Hooden horse has appeared with the Tunbridge Mummers regularly at Christmas, and, to our great pleasure, is here with us tonight.
Now, ladies and gentlemen sitting around, did you ever see a better class of beast out of England's ground? He's an eye like a hawk, a neck like a swan, a pair of ears cut from a leather apron. When he opens his mouth, his head comes loose, and every one of his teeth stands rank gank, like a regiment of pickled onions. If you look down his throat, you can see the holes in his shoes. Whoa, stand still there, boy. He's a very fine horse, and very fine bred. On West Peckham oats this horse has been fed. He's won the Derby and the Oaks, and finished up being dope tested by the Jockey Club. Stand around there, hobby, and show yourself. He's travelled high, he's travelled low, he's travelled here through frost and snow. And though he's won all of these famous races, I brought him here to bring him through his paces. Now my horse can tell fortunes. Show me the young lady who threw the bedclothes off last night, dreaming of her sweetheart. Not me. Right, now show me the sweetheart. She threw the bedclothes off. Oh. Funny old horse. He's done to my horse over there. He's still rapping. Right. Now they're getting the idea. Show me the biggest rogue here. All right.
The English holly bough here could be seen in every home at Christmas time in England, every home and hall, until silly old Prince Albert brought over the German Christmas tree. Everybody fell for that instead, so this is very rarely seen. But it always takes the same form, a sphere of holly with red apples inside and a candle and some mistletoe and if you can afford it, some red ribbons. We couldn't afford it this year. But that is an English holly bough and was traditional for several centuries, right up until the Christmas tree of 1840-something. And now a version of Holly and the Ivy, collected at the turn of the century. A little introduction. Very simple little tune, you'll soon pick it up.
On most festival days, people used to look forward to good entertainment from plays performed by either wandering players or local people. And there were two sorts, the miracle plays and the mummers' plays. The miracle plays were religious in content and acted out many different stories from the Bible. These were begun in the 9th century by church people who realised that the ordinary uneducated person couldn't understand the Bible because it was written in Latin. So some enterprising clergy thought of the idea of showing the people the Bible stories by actually acting them out. Now, the other type of play, the mummers' play, is much older and was probably in existence long before the arrival of Christianity. These entertainments were performed by the local working people, acting out the stories of the seasons or the myths and legends of the pagan Norse gods that they knew. In all the plays, the theme of death and resurrection plays a central part. Usually, there is a fight between two of the characters. One is killed but brought back to life by the magical powers of the doctor. Some of these traditional plays grew out of the ritualistic dances such as the sword dance. Well, when people were converted to Christianity, the characters of the mummers changed and they became respectable beings, acting out stories of right triumphing over evil. The most popular Christmas play was St. George and the Dragon. The usual characters taking part were St. George, the Doctor, the Turkish Knight, the Fool or Jester, the Dragon, and surprisingly of all, Old Father Christmas. Well, the word mumming means to disguise, and the early players always dressed themselves in unusual clothing, wearing masks or animal heads, or wigs and false beards, and often hats with strips of paper or ribbon to cover their faces. We shall see what we shall see in a moment when we give welcome to the Darent Valley champions.
Well, the first to come in is old Santa, you'll see, with some old Christmas ribbons wrapped around his knee, with a beard on his chest like silver does shine, and he'll hope you'll remember it's tip-tearing time, and we're 1, 2, 3 jolly lads all in one mind, and we come a tip-tearing, and we'll hope you'll prove kind, and we'll hope you'll prove kind with your cider and beer, and we'll come no more nigh you until the next year. Oh, well, the next to come in is King George the Good. He's fought for his country till he shed his blood. He's come from the sea, old England to view, and he's come a tip-tearing with all his grand crew, and is 1, 2, 3 jolly lads all in one mind, and we'll come a tip-tearing, and we'll hope you'll prove kind. And we'll hope you'll prove kind with your cider and beer, and we'll come no more nigh you until the next year. And the next to come in is a little Turkish knight. He's come down from Darent, King George for to fight, with a fez on his head and a sword in his hand, and he's been a tip-tearing around this fair land, and we're 1, 2, 3 jolly lads all in one mind, and we'll come a tip-tearing, and we'll hope you'll prove kind, and we'll hope you'll prove kind with your cider and beer, and we'll come no more nigh you until the next year. Well, the next to come in is Molly Brown Bags. She's plenty of money, though she's golden, she's silver, she's copper in score, and she's got the tip-tearing in the hope she'll get more. And here's 1, 2, 3 jolly lads all in one mind, and we'll come a tip-tearing, and we'll hope you'll prove kind, and we'll hope you'll prove kind with the cider and beer, and we'll come no more nigh you until the next year. And the next to come in is the doctor, you'll see. He's a valiant old man by every degree. He's a valiant old man, and he wears a coat tail, and his only delight is in drinking old ale. Jolly lads all in one mind, and we'll come a tip-tearing, and we'll hope you'll prove kind, and we'll hope you'll prove kind with your cider and beer, and we'll come no more nigh you until the next year. And the last to come in is little Johnny Jack. He comes begging for money, though money he don't lack. So put your hands in your pockets and pull out your purse. If you give just a trifle, you'll not be the worst. And we're 1, 2, 3 jolly lads all in one mind, and we come a tip-tearing, and we'll hope you'll prove kind, and we'll hope you'll prove kind with your cider and beer, and we'll come no more nigh you until the next year. In comes our old Father Christmas. Am I welcome, or am I not? Yes! I hope that old Father Christmas shall never be forgot, for I have just a short time to stay, and I hope to show you so many sports and pleasures before I go away, for in this room there shall be shown the dreadfulest battle ever known. Rum! Rum! Ladies and gentlemen, give me rum, I pray, for I am the man that leads Bold George and his merry band this way.
In comes I, King George, the dragon for the fight. With my broadsword I brought him to great slaughter, and there by those means I won 3 crowns and the Queen of Egypt's daughter. I slew 20 armies of the little Turkish knight.
Here comes I, little Turkish knight. From Turkish land I learnt to fight. I'll fight with thee, King George, that man of courage bold. If your blood be hot, I'll quickly fetch it cold.
Oh, my little man, thy talk is very bold, like those little Nurkish tights, so I'll go told. I'll kick thee to the skies, I'll make thy little buttons fly, and send thee off to Jamaica to make mince pies. Step up and defend thyself.
And that's wonderful too.
That's very wonderful.
Yeah. I have a little bottle. My inside left hand, right hand. Waistcoat pockets. Bottle of Indian frostbite pill. A drop on the eyes. And a drop on the nose will set this man to quiver. A drop on the tongue will bring him back to life again.
Arise, arise, you cowardly dog. Go back to thine own country and show them what old England has done for you.
What is that fee, Doctor? 40 guineas is my fee. As a poor woman, I'll let you off behind me.
Johnny Jack, with my wife and family at my back. My family is very large, and I am very small. So every little bit will help us all. Roast beef, plum pudding, fat hog in the sty. Who likes all them better than I? And Father Christmas, I believe. So, while you sit there all at your ease, give us Christmas champions just what you please. Thank you kindly.
And there's 1, 2, 3 jolly lads all in one line, and you'll come a tip-tearing, and we hope you'll prove kind. And we hope you'll prove kind with your cider and beer, and come no more time you until the next year.
Yorkshire long sword tradition, where they make the sword lock and kill somebody during the folk play, has fairly modest range of tunes, things like Bobby Shafto and things of that ilk. One particular town in Yorkshire has absolutely wonderful tune, I think, and it's the village of Ampleforth. And then I'd like to finish that off with a song tune, one of the most beautiful tunes, I think, in the English folk tradition. And that's the tune from Dorset from the Simonsbury Mummets play, which I know is a particular favourite of certain people here. So Ampleforth and Simonsbury.
In Baltimore there lived a boy. He wasn't anybody's joy. Although his name was Jabez Dawes, his character was full of flaws. In school he never led his classes. He hid old ladies' reading glasses. His mouth was open when he chewed, and elbows to the table glued. He stole the milk of hungry kittens and walked through doors marked no admittance. He said he acted thus because there wasn't any Santa Claus. Another trick that tickled Jabez was crying boo at little babies. He brushed his teeth, they said in town, sideways instead of up and down. Yet people pardoned every sin and viewed his antics with a grin, till they were told by Jabez Dawes, there isn't any Santa Claus. Deploring how he did behave, his parents sought an early grave. They hurried through the portals pearly, and Jabez left the funeral early. Like whooping cough from child to child, he sped and spread the rumour wild. Sure as my name is Jabez Dawes, there isn't any Santa Claus. Slunk like a weasel or a marten through nursery and kindergarten, whispering low at every tot, there isn't any, no there's not. The children wept all Christmas Eve, while Jabez chortled up his sleeve. No infant dare hang up his stocking for fear of Jabez' ribald mocking. He sprawled on his untidy bed, fresh malice dancing in his head, when presently, with scalp a-tingling, Jabez heard a distant jingling. He heard the crunch of sleigh and hoof crisply alighting on the roof. No good the sweeper by the door, a shower of soot was on the floor. What was beheld by Jabez Dawes? The fireplace full of Santa Claus. Then Jabez fell upon his knees with cries of, don't, and pity, please. He howled, I don't know where you read it, but anyhow I never said it. Jabez, replied the angry saint, it isn't I, it's you that ain't. Although there is a Santa Claus, there isn't any Jabez Dawes. Said Jabez then with impudent grin, oh yes there is, and I'm him. Your magic don't scare me, it doesn't. And suddenly he found he wasn't. From grimy feet to grimy locks, Jabez became a jack-in-the-box, an ugly toy with springs unsprung, forever sticking out his tongue. The neighbours heard his mournful squeal. They searched for him, but not with zeal. No trace was found of Jabez Dawes, which led to thunderous applause. And people drank a loving cup and went and hung their stockings up. All you who sneer at Santa Claus, beware the fate of Jabez Dawes, the saucy boy who mocked the saint. Donner and Blitzen licked off his paint.
Song by John and I here, and myself occasionally. Comes from California, from the Bloomstein family in California. Came to us via Tony and Jane Petto of Spelldust.
My Lord, he said unto me, do you like my garden so fair? You may live in this garden if you'll keep the grasses green, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and he walks in his garden in the cool of the day.
My Lord,
he said unto me, do you like my garden so pure? You may live in this garden if you'll keep the waters clear, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and he walks in his garden in the cool of the day. My Lord, he said unto me, do you like my pastures so green? You may live in this garden if you will feed my lambs, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and he walks in his garden in the cool of the day. My Lord, he said unto me, do you like my garden so free? You may live in this garden if you'll keep my people free, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and he walks in his garden in the cool of the day.
The Puritans were opposed to the celebration of Christmas, partly because of their general antipathy to masses as being superstitious. And in particular, they abhorred the conviviality of Christmas and the links of its symbolism and seasonal significance with earlier pagan beliefs. Once the Roundheads took control of Kent during the Civil War, there was inevitable friction over the attempts of Kentish men to maintain their seasonal celebrations and church services. Loyalties in Canterbury were closely divided between King and Parliament, though there was strong opposition to the damage done to the cathedral by the Puritans. In the later 1640s, sympathy began to swing to the King's cause in Canterbury, and Christmas clashes provided the spark which ignited a royalist rising in Kent. In December 1647, the Puritan Mayor of Canterbury, William Bridge, proclaimed that by order of Parliament, Christmas days and all other superstitious festivals are utterly abolished. He announced that the usual Saturday market would be held on Christmas Day, which that year fell on a Saturday, that shops should open, and that no church services were to be held. He warned that anyone who hung rosemary, holly, or bays, or other superstitious herbs at his door, or made either plum pottage or nativity pies would be going against the orders of Parliament. Well, on Christmas Day, in defiance of this proclamation, Mr. Aldie, the minister of St. Andrews, preached in his church. But the loyal Puritans made noisy demonstrations outside the church to try to disturb the service. Only 12 shops opened, and royalists tried to persuade these to close by damaging the goods they had on sale. The mayor went about Canterbury encouraging the shopkeepers to open up. And when one of them answered him rudely, the mayor struck him in the face, but was himself seized and thrown into the gutter. This was followed by other assaults on Puritans, their windows broken and their goods thrown about the streets. The Royalists barricaded St. George's Gate, Burgate and Wincheap Gate with timber, and their watchword was, "For God, King Charles and Kent." On Boxing Day, the mayor set a small armed guard to watch the gates. Their leader, a barber named White, shot one of the crowd for calling him a Roundhead, which caused a fresh riot. The citizens came forth with clubs. Captain White was assaulted and imprisoned, the mayor fled, and his house was attacked. The rioters obtained the keys to the prison and set their own guard over the city. And by December the 27th, the insurgents had increased to over 1,000 in number, and they took control of the town hall and with it a supply of arms and powder. When the sheriff intervened to try to rescue Captain White, he was knocked down and his head fearfully broke. It was God's mercy his brains were not beat out. Other Puritans were attacked, including Thomas Harris, who was described as a busy, prating fellow. Well, eventually, the justices of the peace persuaded the citizens to lay down their arms, with a promise that no retribution would be taken against them. However, the mayor brought in 3,000 Roundhead soldiers who damaged the gates and city walls and imprisoned the justices in Leeds Castle for 2 months. Some of the rioters were imprisoned and tried, including the poet Francis Lovelace, who wrote his poem To Althea from Prison on this occasion, which has the famous line, "Stone walls do not a prison make." The jury threw out all the charges and organised a petition asking that the King and Parliament should settle the peace both of Church and Commonwealth. Parliament's reaction to this was a threat to hang 2 petitioners from each parish, and this led to a general royal uprising in Kent, defeated in a pitched battle at Maidstone. Well, not until the restoration of Charles II, the Merry Monarch, was Christmas properly celebrated again in Kent with church services, evergreen decorations, singing and dancing, and seasonal food and drink.
Noel, Noel, the angel did say, while shepherds there in the fields did lay, lying there one night a-folding their sheep, a winter's night both cold and bleak.
Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel.
And then there did appear a star, 2 wise men 3 in country far, and to the earth it gave a great light, and there it continued a day and a night.
Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel.
The star it shone all in the northwest, o'er Bethlehem city it took its rest, and there it did both stand and stay, right over the house where our Lord lay.
Noel, 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 born is the King of Israel. Noel,
There entered in those wise men three, with reverence upon their knee, and offered up in rich potence both gold and myrrh and frankincense.
Noel, 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 and Noel, born is the King of Israel. Noel, and Noel, Noel, and Noel, born is the King of Israel.
Betwixt an ox manger and an ass, there our blessed Messiah was, to save us all from sin and thrall. He is the Redeemer of us all.
Noel, 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 and Noel, born is